On November 22, 2014, the Oakland Airport Connector began service as part of the Bay Area Rapid Transit Network. It's a short 3-mile-long people mover that links the mainline BART network at Coliseum to Oakland International Airport. Fine, I'll try that again. It's a short 3-mile-long people mover that links the mainline BART network at Coliseum to, let me check my notes here. San Francisco Bay, Oakland International.
Objection!
Moving on from the absurdity of this airport's new name, today we celebrate 10 years of it having a rail connection. How do we get here? How could have things gone better? And how has this unassuming cable car derived technology become the subject of eternal BART lore? Oakland's airport has been connected to the BART network in some way since 1977, when the Port of Oakland and BART jointly operated a bus service that was creatively known as AirBART. Now, AirBART ran all sorts of kinds of buses, and it appeared on BART maps, but it was never really sustainable in the long term. Not only did the buses get stuck in traffic, but it's also less comfortable for folks with luggage. Not to mention, it was never free and was never integrated with Clipper, so it had to go. The answer was obvious: connect the airport to BART with actual rail. 4 candidates were being considered as to who should build this new line. One of those was the Mitsubishi Crystal Mover. As someone who's done a little bit of traveling, I've seen these things everywhere. It's a super popular technology. It's been proven to be a success in many of the world's busiest airports, from Singapore to Seoul and Dubai to DC. This would have been by far my preferred choice of system. But there's only one problem. The year is 2009. We all know what that means for finances. And yeah, I'm sure BART would have preferred the Crystal Movers too, but one of the 2 cable-based options was nearly $80 million cheaper. That, of course, is in 2009 dollars, so the difference is more like $115 million today. So then the Doppelmayr cable car was chosen, a decision that has caused, let's just say, issues. But we'll come back to that. Into the new decade, construction began and the system opened by November 2014. However, something was missing. Only the 2 termini of Coliseum and Oakland Airport had enough funding to get built, not the planned middle station. Yeah, you heard that right, there was supposed to be a 3rd station where the current maintenance facility is. This would have been super useful since it's right next to where all the airport hotels are. Many transit lines that serve airports also have a stop that serves lodging designed for the airport. For one example of this, look across the bay with the Grand Hyatt station on the SFO air train. Further afield, there are lots of examples around the world of airport hotel clusters, such as Haddon Cross in London, Gateway Gardens in Frankfurt, and Delhi's Aerocity. All 3 of those places have rail transit service direct to the airport. In some cases, those trips are even free. But for Oakland, it would never come to be. The saddest part about this is if you go to Doppelmayr's website for the Oakland Airport Connector project, they still talk about how the project, quote, provides a backbone for transit-oriented development along Oakland's Hagenberger corridor. I guess they were pretty bullish on the intermediate station opening, but oh well, we can't have nice things in the Bay anymore, right? Now if you've ridden this line before, then you know that even though there isn't a station at the maintenance facility, the trains still have to stop here, and that's because they switch cables over here. You see, this system is known as a pinch loop system, where there are 4 cables unconnected to each other running along the rails, 1 for each segment of the system, and each of these cables can only drive 1 train at a time. And this right here is the biggest flaw with basically any cable-powered people mover system. To maintain an operation of more than 2 trains, as the system was first designed for, each one can only use 1 cable at a time, and they switch to a different cable every time they stop. Remember that even when the system was first being proposed to contractors, the proviso was that there would be a midway station, so had that station actually been built, it would have all been fine and the trains would have to stop there anyway. This whole system with 4 cables and a midway stop is a trade-off that must be made to get frequent service out of the line. If only 2 cables were used, only 2 trains can be used, which means that your maximum possible headway is only as good as the total length of the trip between the 2 stations plus dwell time, which in this case is around 9 minutes. So then, at risk of sounding like a podcast that produces far better content than I could ever create, well, there's your problem. Now, I'm gonna be real, I don't like being overly negative in my videos, but the fact is that the cost cutting that was necessary to get this line going has clearly presented long-term issues. Of course though, the line still exists, which deserves immense credit. A train to the airport is not something that you can take for granted in a city, especially in North America. So the fact that an airport this small has a direct rail link at all is worthy of praise. With that in mind though, here's a list of every airport in the US and Canada that's busier than OAK but doesn't have any direct rail connection. Kansas City, Dallas, Love, Las Vegas, Montreal, San Diego, Santa Ana, Raleigh, Durham too. Boston and Fort Lauderdale, In the Name But Far Away, Houston Bush and Houston Hobby, New York, LaGuardia. Sacramento, San Jose, Calgary, and New Orleans, Charlotte, Austin, both are planned if the funding stays intact. LAX, Honolulu, both of them will get there soon. Nashville, Tampa, but at least Oakland has one. We didn't link our airport. It was too expensive and we're still indebted. We didn't link our airport. Everyone loves driving, so there's no point trying. The Oakland Airport Connector doesn't have live GTFS tracking, so it can be difficult to know when a train will show up. While the maximum capacity of the line is 4 trains, or one every 4.5 minutes, it's more recently run only 3 trains, or one every 6 minutes due to low ridership. Schedules that are published on BART's site are not always indicative of what you'll get, since they do claim to run the service on demand. Recently, though, that has meant the service was cut to 2 trains only, or one every 9 minutes, despite the schedule still implying that there was a 3-train system. And this went unnoticed for a while. The only way that was discovered publicly was from an unlikely source: BART speedrunners. Planning a transit run like this often requires analyzing schedules to such a high level of scrutiny, and going out in the wild to see if trains are actually sticking to their schedule. Well, I don't know why I'm talking in the third person, because I was part of this. In May 2024, during my world record attempt practice, I discovered that the line had cut service from 3 trains to 2 without any public acknowledgement on the part of BART. This was quite a big deal, not only in terms of how to plan a run, but also just calling out misinformation on their schedules. There's a reason why getting the OAK line right is so valuable for a BART speedrun. I've talked about it a lot before already, so I'll just do the short version. Because mainline BART trains arrive every 20 minutes per line, once you get to Coliseum, if you want to get back onto the same line before you were on before, and make the next train, you'll have a very tight window to ride the OAK line. The entire trip back and forth takes 18.5 minutes, so you have less than a minute of wiggle room on each end, and that usually means running up and down the stairs. As much as the engineering decisions that have led to the Oakland Airport Connector were far from perfect, it is still a transit line that I hold close to my heart. And again, when you consider the airport's size and some others in the region that don't have a rail link, I'm glad that this line exists. Although you still have to cross multiple lanes of traffic once you get to the airport, it's a really valuable connection to have when looking at not just the line itself, but what it connects to. Transit lines are always worth analyzing in terms of the part they play in a broader network. And being part of the BART network effectively means that so many parts of the Bay Area are now much closer to this airport, and may be tempted to consider it over SFO if possible. As OAK does their best to rebrand themselves as San Francisco's second airport, the BART connection may well just be their biggest asset. Though that rebranding is cringe, let's be real, I'm glad the courts vetoed it.
It is currently 9:03 a.m. This is attempt 1 of my tightest ever connection in hope of reclaiming the BART speedrun world record, and this is crucial. Can we make this? Oh god, oh god, oh god. The fare gate slow you down. Made it, made it. Oh, you're kidding me.